The Super Bowl is coming up this Sunday, and if you're like me, you're probably going to be invited to a couple of parties where you don't know what's actually going on with the game. So here's my couple of tips on how to successfully BS your way through a Super Bowl party. When someone's asking you about who you think's going to win the game, respond in vague haikus. Hey Michael, who do you think's going to win the Super Bowl this year? The 49ers are on the Super Bowl field. They will run the field. Or you could stuff your face while you're about to make a really interesting point about the game. I mean, it's Ray Lewis's destiny to win the game. Or if all else fails, just crack some really corny jokes about the really bad Super Bowl commercials or how the halftime performance is going to end up. So those are basically my 3 main tips for surviving a friend's Super Bowl party when you don't know anything about football. Vague haikus, stuffing your face with food while you're about to make some really interesting point about the game, and corny jokes about the bad commercials and the halftime performance. Yeah! What's going on, everyone? This is H.B.Y. Michael to those that know me better. And I'm back with a new vlog. First off, I want to thank everyone that watched the clip I put up earlier this week of a mosh pit occurring at the Lady in the Trap event from Ham on Everything while the owner of the venue was trying to shut the place down. I definitely got lucky with that clip, and shout out to Adam Weiss from Ham on Everything for reposting the link on his Twitter and Facebook pages. Seriously, if you're in the LA area, you have to hit up one of these Ham on Everything events. They are so much fun. But now, let me talk about a couple of things that piqued my interest this week. First off, let's talk about the city of Chicago. Reports came out this week that Hadiya Pendleton, a 15-year-old girl from Chicago that had attended Barack Obama's inauguration earlier this month, had been shot to death in a Chicago park. And this story becomes even sadder when you look at the statistic of 42 people having been killed in the city of Chicago in the month of January, making this January the most deadly January in the city of Chicago in more than 10 years. Keep in mind, there were over 506 murders in the city of Chicago, thus making Chicago the murder capital of the United States. As I see it, there's definitely a few contributing factors to the high murder rate in the city of Chicago. Whether that be low-income housing projects being torn down all over the city, increased gang activity, or the city of Chicago mainly being awash in guns. With the confiscation of guns per capita in Chicago being 6 times the number that it is in New York City. With about 45% of the guns in the city of Chicago being sold in surrounding towns around Chicago. Either way, I'm hoping that there's something that can be done in order to drive down the murder rate in Chicago. I don't know if that means implementing stricter gun control laws in the city, just something needs to happen there. It just seems like it's been going on for way too long. And switching subjects, I want to talk about Chris Brown. A lot of people have talked about the fight that Chris Brown and Frank Ocean had in Hollywood over at Westlake Recording Studios. The one that started over Chris Brown and Frank Ocean fighting over a parking space that then eventually escalated into their entourages fighting each other. Now, while Frank Ocean has maintained a low profile since the dispute with Chris Brown at Westlake, mostly consisting of a couple of tweets about how he won't be able to play at the Grammys with both of his hands, Chris Brown has continued his streak of erratic behavior when it comes to publicly responding to these sorts of incidents. Most infamously, the one where he posted up a pic on Instagram of a painting of Jesus Christ, essentially saying how he felt like he is being crucified in the public the same way that Jesus Christ was crucified. And after a ton of people in the press and in the world of social media made it vocal as to how Chris Brown was stupid for making this kind of comparison, Chris Brown responded in the only way that he found reasonable. He made his Fuck Your Pictures Instagram account private. And while all this was happening, it had me thinking about a quote from an interview that Rolling Stone did with Rihanna recently. The one where she said that if Chris Brown were to display a hint of his past behavior towards her, she was ready to walk. Basically saying he doesn't have the luxury of fucking up again, that's just not an option. Even though publicly, that seems to be the contrary with Chris Brown. Whether that meant throwing a chair out the window at Good Morning America a couple of years back when a reporter asked him about the night that he beat Rihanna in 2009, getting into feuds with everyone on Twitter, then deleting his Twitter account, then restoring his Twitter account, snatching phones from fans that want to take pictures with him, and even more erratic behavior that I could spend all day talking about. And yet he seems to come out of these sorts of things unscathed with no real consequences like a male Lindsay Lohan. I mean, he came out with an album less than 9 months after he attacked Rihanna a few years back. He's had some really successful songs in the last couple of years, but at the same time, he's never really shown any kind of regret for any of his behavior from the last few years. And also, Rihanna took him back. Which is unbelievable when you go back and read the police report of when he beat her up. Now, if anyone from Team Breezy is watching this, I don't want to get into an exchange with you. I've liked a couple of songs that Chris Brown's done in the last few years, but it seems like he needs either better management or a better PR person to help him handle these sorts of things in the public eye, and to tell him not to act like such a douchebag. At this point, I think Chris Brown should just lock himself in the studio, stay out of the public eye, and only emerge when he's coming out with a new album. And as far as Frank Ocean, I hope he picks up a couple Grammy Awards this year, producer, and I'm looking forward to his next album. And now, it's time for my rhyme calisthenics. This week, I'll be rapping over the UK bootleg to Bang by Carnage. Can I pack in 4 to 5 pop culture references into 12 bars over a trap beat? Let's see if I can do it. Let's go! Well, look at who just stumbled in the convo while their ambitions coming up short as a line. No, man, I leave a rival's face scrunch like Rondo's, cause we don't wanna hear from them like Chris Jenner's talk show. I'm inside my own world. I be on a different tip. The outside is sounding like Cannibal Burris gibberish. Rappity rap 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 rap. That was intricate, but I'm hyped like Macklemore, capping close out of the clearance bin. Now my brain's quick like Crawford with the pump fake, going crazy in a place that's packed with sprinkles, cupcakes. Yeah, and since I'm ready to get wild like gunplay, this could only end one way. And those were my rhyme calisthenics. If there's any beat you want me to hop on for one of these segments, leave a comment down below. But now, we've come to the end of this week's vlog. Subscribe to my channel at youtube.com/iamHBY. You can follow me on both Twitter and Instagram over at iamHBY. iamHBY.tumblr.com for my Tumblr blog. SoundCloud.com/H.B.Y for my music. instacanv.as/iamHBY where I'm selling prints of my Instagram pictures. And I'll answer all of your questions over at vu.com/iamHBY. But that's gonna do it for me for this week. You're all fantastic. Continue to stay awesome and I will see you next time.